Hello, my relatives. What I have to say about myself is that I've been to prison, I've been a thief, I've been a doper, a dope dealer, and I've also gone to college. I'm an accountant and a computer programmer, as well as getting my doctorate in philosophy. I've been everywhere in the strata of white society. I've even hung around with multimillionaires when there were no billionaires. I am an Indian, American Indian. I prefer American Indian to anyone born in the Western Hemisphere is a Native American. I'm an Oglala Lakota from the Pine Ridge Sioux Indian Reservation, which is still designated in the Defense Department as prisoner of war camp number 44. You see, Indian people, we don't have any rights, any constitutional protections on the reservation whatsoever. No freedom of speech, no privacy. Wow, you Americans are in the same boat. You know, the American people, for too long, have been an irresponsible, free people. And even generation to generation, as they've become less free, they don't recognize it. They have lost the ability of critical thought. In order to regain critical thought, all you have to do is read your Constitution and then look at the laws that govern you, especially from the federal perspective. It's unconscionable to allow your freedoms to be taken away decade after decade after decade, year after year. And I'm very proud of this, by the way. My nation, the Lakota, were the first nation to militarily defeat the United States of America on the field of battle. And that resulted in the 1868 Sioux Treaty. Be that as it may, what has happened after they economically forced us into these prisoner of war camps by destroying our food supply and our right of passage in our own land, they confined us to these, and then they began practicing and perfecting their colonial tactics. What has happened is now America, because of the irresponsibility of your forebears and the irresponsibility of yourselves, you are now on one huge Indian reservation. All policies were bred and born and birthed on an Indian reservation, and then exported to the world, and now comes back on the backs of the American people. You have a near-perfect document. In the words of Benjamin Franklin in 1744, to a collection of colonists discussing freedom, he said to them, and I quote, "If a nation to the north can form a near-perfect union that has endured for centuries, why cannot we form a more perfect union?" Unquote. So they're talking about the Iroquois Confederacy, and that's where the Constitution comes from. Because in 1988, on the eve of the 200-year anniversary of the Constitution, it was a unanimous thank you by the Congress of the United States. They sent in writing to the Six Nations Iroquois Confederacy, thanking them for their input into the Constitution and the formation of the United States of America. So you see, the Constitution is Indian law, and that's why I love it. You know, beginning in the 1840s, they start stripping away your freedoms by developing the corporation. You know, a piece of paper. And then in the 1870s, of course, during Lincoln, when they declared martial law, and even after they ceased Civil War, martial law continued on for another 3 or 4 years when it was no need to. And you go on, but in the 1870s, that's when Congress started giving the banks the right to rule. And of course, you go on to 1913 and the beginning of the 20th century, that's when they officially gave away the power of our economy to the banks, you know? They can print the money for us. According to our Constitution, the people should never allow their money to be printed by someone else. Hello? So the history of the Indian and the history of the American have now come full circle and were intertwined in the dictatorial policies of those that control the monetary system of America. And they have done such a bad job of it that they're destroying themselves. It's ludicrous at best. Every sense, you have no privacy, none. You have no protections anymore. Now, I could be a smart aleck and say, how does it feel? Because I know how it feels living on a reservation, prisoner of war camp. Now, I can be an American, take my Social Security card and leave the reservation and be like the rest of you. They welcome that because in America, they had forced relocation for Indian people back in the 50s. It was fostered under Truman, the relocation plan. And the man appointed to run that, the first man, he was the one who headed up the Japanese internment relocation program during World War II. So he went and headed up the relocation office for the American Indians, and I went on relocation twice. That's kind of a con job, but I made it out twice. And that's what they want to do, a diaspora. And therefore, guess whose land they're after? In our meager holdings on trust land, over 40% of the natural resource wealth of America is still under and on our lands. 40%. It's curious to me that wherever they put us was full of energy from our grandmother the earth. That's a thought you should think about. So consequently, if we had the right, or the rights that you had, we would be richer than the Saudis if we had the right to join in a capitalist society. And we damn sure wouldn't have allowed Wall Street to use our money for derivatives, etc., etc. And enough isn't enough, and they start creating financial mythology, and you allow it. That's the crime. You have no one to blame but yourself. Look in the mirror. If you can't move and protect yourselves, then guess what happens? Look around you. Look at Detroit, etc., etc. It's unconscionable what's happening to America because you've allowed your republic to be commandeered by two political parties whose only differences are their spending goals. Some would rather have them spend over here than over there. But they still want to spend. And it's a government. There hasn't literally been literally no difference in those two parties for quite some time, since I would say the Civil War. So I know where my people stand in America, you know? But this is my land. I love it. And it's governed by Indian law. Ironically, isn't that beautiful? That's beautiful in my eyes. So I love this land, and I'm sad to see it's my duty as a Lakota to welcome human beings. So that's why I fight for this country. That's why I fight for the Constitution. That's because I see too many wounded knees. The Branch Davidians, it's a white man's wounded knee, you know? When Clinton, a Democrat, attacked his own people and slaughtered them. Wow. Never stops, does it? And then they're demonized. And you know what they went to prison for? Those that survived that Holocaust? Illegal possession of firearms.
Hi, you guys. I'm not going to have enough time to do this on this one video, so I'm begging you, please go to the follow-up video for the finish of it, would you please? This is so important. I didn't want to do 2 videos, but I just don't have a choice. So I'm begging you right now. I only have about 2.5, 3 minutes on this tape, so video. But I'm calling on you guys to help. And I put this on Russell Means. I wish Russell Means was still alive, because he would be right here fighting the fight. But I'm asking you guys to listen to what he says and understand what's happening here, because it involves all of us. Most of you know I'm Alaskan Indian. They're not out there by themselves. And some of you I know have some bitter taste in your mouth about different things, but we have to put that all aside, because this is happening to all of us. We aren't, as Native Indians, American Indians, we're not going to be saved from what's going on down here. And I'm appealing to the Tulalip Tribes, because I know you guys as probably as well as I know anybody. I know you better than I know my own ancestry and people. Most of mine died or were killed. But what's happening here, I've never felt this way since I was in Vietnam. And then it was a matter of staying right on the top of your game, so to speak, so that you could stay alive. Well, those gut feelings are back, because we're in big trouble here, you guys. And I know I've thought about this a lot, and there is a solution, but I'm going to have to come back on the next video. Please don't shut this off and not go to it. It's important, you guys. All right? Love you guys. Talk to you on the next video.